What's happening, guys? And welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the weekend roundup with myself and co-host George, where we're going to delve into all the major talking points from the weekend's action as the Premier League takes a break for the international fixtures. George, only one place to start, really. A cracking game yesterday on Super Sunday. Liverpool taking on Manchester City at Anfield, which ended in a pulsating 2-2 draw. The first half wasn't great. City did dominate pretty much, had a lot of the ball. Not what you expect from an away side at Anfield. Were you surprised at how dominant they were in that first half?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised because we know what City are like. They're going to keep the ball so good in possession, so good with the press, make it difficult for teams to get it out. And even, when they're playing one of the best, they play Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. That's not easy. And then doing it to Liverpool. I think what was missing from Liverpool and what they addressed at the half-time kind of show that I do agree with was Roy Keane's comments that I think Liverpool just needed to make it a bit more of a contest, in those marginal things, getting themselves into tackles, winning the first ball in the air, just those fine margins that would have made it a bit more of a battle. I think they gave City maybe too much respect. And they needed half-time desperately, didn't they? Because as the game went on, particularly towards the end of that first half, I think City were trying to go through the gears and got very close on a few occasions. But no, I'm not surprised. City are the best team in England, possibly in Europe. We know that. And I think, they went to Anfield full of confidence on the back of the result against Chelsea. So, yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, I think, and also seeing the likes of James Milner at right back, obviously he's been a fantastic professional, but at right back and at his age, that's, especially in this caliber of game, he's going to get caught out, and that's exactly what happened to him. I think Phil Foden was just having him for fun, Milner was just getting caught out of position the entire time. We might as well talk about it now. How on earth was he not sent off? I can't understand that. The red card was gift wrapped for the referee, and he just completely bowled it, I think. Do you feel that he was influenced by the Anfield crowd? There's one of the few grounds that you go to as a referee where, you can be influenced by that crowd. If Milner's not already booked, he's certainly getting a yellow card for that. So, I just can't quite fathom it. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. It's one of those, probably one of two grounds where you get away with it, Anfield and Old Trafford. And for whatever reason, I don't care what referees say, don't care what other fans say, there's definitely seems to be a different vibe when you go to those two grounds. I mean, the amount of times that I've watched United games and minutes have just been added on for no reason, or penalties given just because they buckle under the pressure, it happens too often. That's the thing in those two grounds. But yeah, how he stayed on the pitch, don't know.
I mean, were you surprised that Milner wasn't subbed off at half-time? So as I mentioned, he was having a torrid time, particularly Phil Foden giving him a lot of issues on a booking. Are you surprised that he didn't come off earlier?
I know people were saying he was having a torrid time, but he did do a lot off the ball. He's an absolute, what I will say about James Milner is he's an absolute workhorse, and he gets up and down the pitch. A solid professional, so he would have known full well if he was on a yellow card that he couldn't risk it again. And yeah, for as much as he's not the best option at right back when you're playing City, I think in any other game he is a pretty good right back. I think he's a good second option to have, and I don't think he did too badly. I think I was mentioning to you, mate, during the game, I think it was more the responsibility of Salah trying to get back and help him, considering that that's not their first choice and he's going to get done for pace. So I think he was a bit lazy on his part. But yeah, they could have changed it. But would they, like Carragher said, would they have changed it if Trent was on a yellow? I don't think they would have changed it.
Yeah, no, I think it perhaps highlights for me a little bit of lack of squad depth in certain positions. Like Trent's out. Milner, you might get away with it against some bottom half sides, but with one of the best teams in the world coming to town, you're not really going to get away with it. And they were very lucky to get away with it, to get out of jail with a full complement of players on the pitch. But obviously Liverpool took the lead through Sadio Mane, a well-taken goal. And George, I just want to talk about Phil Foden because he got the equaliser for Manchester City. I thought he was outstanding yesterday. And he's really developed as a player. I know there's a lot of people sort of a season or two ago saying, he should go out on loan. He's not getting enough minutes. Pep's not using him properly. He's really arrived on the big stage now, and he's probably one of City's most important players, I'd say.
Yeah, he's an example to all young players who want to make a statement. And he's been in the City side for a long time, maybe not starting, but he's been in and around the squad, as part of the youth team for a long, long time. And you look at him and you think he's in his mid-20s or, even older, but he's not. And he's just fearless, isn't he? That's what all young players who are coming in the Premier League should aspire to be, forward thinking, no fear, go for it. Just use that pitch as a platform to show your talents and not play the safe game, which a lot of professionals feel like they have to do to risk obviously not making a mistake. But one that springs to mind for Chelsea is Josh McEachran, who came, did all the simple things, but just didn't set the world alight, and subsequently just didn't progress as a player. So yeah, he's outstanding, Phil Foden.
Talking about standing, how good was that goal from Mo Salah yesterday? I mean, I have to say, I can't think of many players right now in better form than he is in world football. I mean, what a player he is, and what a goal. I mean, what were your thoughts on that goal? And do you feel he's kind of at the peak of his powers now and one of the best players in the world currently?
Yeah, you probably have to say he is. He's always been up there in the goal scoring charts since he joined Liverpool. And yeah, he's so quick with his feet, isn't he? And his ability to change direction with the ball is one of the best I've seen. Just mesmerising to watch. Fantastic goal. I mean, that when those two teams come against each other, you always expect fireworks. They for me, it's the most entertaining fixture in the Premier League, for sure, for the last couple of years. And the game did justice. I mean, some fantastic goals in there. And I think Liverpool will consider themselves unlucky not to get all 3 points, considering, I know City played better, but they did take the lead twice. So you'd expect, a team like Liverpool to be able to hold it out. But City, with their firepower options, just too good.
Yeah, I think a point, probably a fair result on reflection. But I mean, it could have been worse for City. I mean, what a block. I will just mention it, but what a block by Rodri. I don't know how he stopped that from going in, because Fabinho just had an open goal. Kind of just took too long with it. But what a defensive block from Rodri. But yeah, I think a point apiece, probably a fair result. And those two teams are going to be right there or thereabouts in the race for the Premier League title. George, briefly moving on then to the other half of Manchester. And it was another disappointing afternoon for Manchester United. We won't go into too much detail, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer making some big decisions with his team selection. No Ronaldo, no Sancho, no Pogba in the starting lineup. And it's backfired against a massively understrength Everton, missing the likes of Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, probably their two biggest attacking threats. Another poor performance from United.
Yeah, we've said it before, mate. I think they're not a team. They're a bunch of individuals looking for individual brilliance from someone to make an impact. And the strangest thing was those individuals that they needed most, none of them were even playing, apart from Fernandes. So look, my opinion of Paul Pogba is well documented, so I won't go into that. But Ronaldo at 36, yes, he'll make a claim that he needs to reserve his energy, but they've got a 2-week international break coming up, and Everton are no mugs. They need points on the board. If they want to win titles, you need to play your best players. And I don't know how he's got a job anyway, but how he gets away with decisions. Well, he didn't get away with it. They dropped 2 points at home again. So not good enough. Just not good enough. Yeah,
no, I think it's as simple as that. Not good enough. And funny thing is, they haven't even played anyone good this season. They've played none of the top sides, and they're already struggling. So yeah, I think it could be a long season for them. And Ole is going to have to sort something out quickly if he's to remain in that job. He shouldn't be in that job anyway, in my opinion. But, they've got to sort something out quickly. But quick word on Everton. I thought they played very well considering they're missing their main attacking threats. Benitez has really got them compact. And I think a lot of that early animosity towards his appointment might be sort of waning a little bit with the fans, because he's picking the results up, and they only sit a point off the top, I think, or a couple of points off the top after the first 7 games. I think it's been a fantastic start from him. But yeah, let's moving on to a few other sides, George. Leicester City, FA Cup winners last season, back-to-back 5th places, won the Community Shield at the start of this season. What's going on there? 2 wins from their opening 7 games. They're letting in a lot of goals and letting a 2-goal lead slip against Crystal Palace yesterday afternoon. Brendan Rodgers has got a lot to deal with on his plate. I think defensively they're massively struggling without Fofana and Evans, because they seem to be creating a lot of errors at the back.
Yeah, you mentioned those two there. This with a team that don't have the squad depth or the luxury that the other big clubs do, they're in that bracket of so-called the big names, but they just don't have the squad to back it up. I feel a little bit like people have to take a reality check a little bit on Leicester City, because I think they've set the bar so high for themselves and people expect more. But if you win an FA Cup, you would snatch your hands off if you're Leicester City. And yes, people go back to the league title that they won back in 2017, 16?
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, so that's a long time ago now, and I think they've had a sluggish start, but I think expectations need to be put into account. They haven't really added much firepower. Again, quite heavily reliant on people in key positions. Jamie Vardy, the two centre halves, as we mentioned. I think Brendan Rodgers is a great coach. I think Leicester are a good side. I think they're just having a bit of a stumbling start at the moment because they left their season on such a high last season.
Yeah, I think they will eventually find their feet. Obviously, once those injuries come back in those key defensive positions, I think they'll look a lot more solid and they will find their feet. It might just be taking them a little bit longer, a bit of a hangover from last season, perhaps. But there's no doubt in the outstanding job he's done, and he's really has put Leicester on the map now. And the fact that we're talking about Leicester having a disappointing start because they're not kind of near the top, I think speaks for itself. But George, quick word on another new manager who's come in. Patrick Vieira seems to have kind of really be making his mark on Crystal Palace. I admittedly had them down as strugglers this season. And I think you said Vieira might be the first manager to be sacked. How impressed have you been with what he's doing at Palace at the moment?
Yeah, I did say that. It was going to go one way or the other. I think the Patrick Vieira effect for me I don't know. He's obviously had experience in management out in the MLS. And he's had a little bit with the City youth team or something similar. So he's obviously got some sort of a pedigree there, but I just thought the Palace job was very difficult. It remains to be seen. They've had an okay start. I think Roy Hodgson was a very solid option for them, but couldn't really take them further. But again, it's expectations for Crystal Palace. What realistically do Crystal Palace want to achieve? Do they want to go a step higher, or are they just a team that wants to stay in the Premier League? Obviously, that's going to be Patrick Vieira's first priority. And look, best of luck to him. Obviously, I've got to predict someone to get sacked. I thought he would be the first to go, but I want him to do well. And he was one of my favourite players growing up. So football brain wise, I mean, people are going to aspire to play for him. He's a fantastic football minded person. So.
Yeah, I think he's made a great start, but as you say, it's a long way to go still. It remains to be seen. It could also easily cave in. So you just got to, take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. But yeah, great start from them so far. And George, we move on to Leeds United against Watford. Ultimately, Leeds getting their first victory of the season, vital for them given the poor start they've had. But George, this result ended in the first sacking of the season for Watford coach Xisco. No surprises really that Watford have parted ways with the manager at the start of October. They're very well known for it. The Pozzo family sack managers like they're going out of fashion. Are you surprised he's been sacked this early?
No, I spoke to a good friend of ours, Lewis, who's a season ticket holder there, and he raised the concerns with me over the phone before the game actually kicked off that it was imminent from reading the newspaper. And he also said that the next appointment would be someone not in contention on the odds list, which it did turn out to be as well. So Claudio Ranieri wasn't initially on the list, but I think you can look at it two ways. I think some teams, when they sack managers, do leave it too late. So the one credit thing you can give to Watford is they're quite clinical, but in a way that gives the next manager enough time to get it right. There's no point like what Newcastle did before with, I think, Alan Shearer, that's just one that comes to mind, where they gave him maybe 6 or 8 games left to save Newcastle's season. It's just not enough time. So the next person comes in.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but we're 7 games in. Watford have got 7 points. They're 3 points out above the bottom 3. Where do they expect Watford to be? They've come up. The squad's not great. They're outside the bottom 3 after 7 games. I'd say that was pretty good for Watford. I don't know what the expectations are there. But it's nothing baffles me of that club. It's how they're run. It's what they do. Briefly, George, how do you think Claudio Ranieri is going to do? I'm going to stick my neck out here and say he won't even last the season.
Yeah, you probably will be right. Like any manager, I think he'll have a bounce. I think he'll get a lot of respect around the club because of what he's achieved at Leicester. And he did have a good spell at Chelsea. Did a lot of big things at Chelsea that shaped the club into what we were and turned out to be. So I expect a bounce. I think the problem was that the manner of defeats from Watford. It wasn't the points. It was the way they were playing. And that game, that 1-0 defeat to Leeds was shocking. I mean, from what I heard, they didn't create anything, no desire, no nothing. So they need a new manager, they need a new bounce, and let's hope again, Claudio. I hope he does well.
And George, just briefly, last couple of games then, Wolves registering their first win of the season at Molineux. After a bit of a slow start, they've picked up back-to-back wins now. They're not going to go down. Things are starting to click a little bit for them and Bruno Lager. Obviously, the Korean forward, Hwang Chi, I think his name is. I might have got that completely wrong. And Raul Jimenez seem to be striking up a bit of a partnership. But it's great to see Jimenez back after that serious head injury that he suffered last season. But George, Newcastle worrying again, still not won a game. Steve Bruce under big pressure, like he's used to at Newcastle. The fans don't really like him particularly. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on Newcastle. It's a massive club, but they're really struggling. I mean, this season, they've done well going forward. They score a lot of goals, but for whatever reason, they just cannot keep them out. And I don't really know where Newcastle go from. I just can't see this changing for them until Mike Ashley sells the club.
Yeah, I agree. It's so frustrating to watch as a Chelsea fan because I actually really like Newcastle, and every time we do the predictions, I always back them to get something. I don't know why. I guarantee the time I don't back them, they end up winning. But they haven't played that badly this year. That's the thing. From what I've watched, that they haven't played that badly, but they just can't seem to get over the line with the results, and it's obviously a problem that's festered for a long time at the club. Again, I like Steve Bruce, but I think Newcastle, until they get a new owner, I just think they're just going to stay at a level that's just substandard, really. And results haven't improved in the last however many years. I mean, but it's a shame because, like you say, they're such a big club.
It is a sleeping giant. I just think if they could get that takeover through, some real investment into the team, perhaps another manager, no disrespect to Steve Bruce, they could start to push on, because Newcastle was too big a club, too big a following to be sort of just battling to stay in a division. That's not the sort of club that they should be. But yeah, until Ashley sells up, I just can't really see that cycle changing. And George, lastly, to finish off then, Brentford, again, another win, a stoppage time winner away at West Ham this time. I mean, they're continuing to tear up trees in the Premier League and making it look quite easy.
It was probably the surprise result of the weekend, although you could have picked other ones. I think don't think many people put Brentford to beat West Ham, but fair play to them away from home. We talked about fearless at the top of the show, and they are just the example of, if you're going to attack the Prem, attack it in full force. Don't go in it half-hearted or go in with that small club mentality, and they don't. They go in there to win, and not just win, but they played some great football as well. So I think everyone who doesn't support Brentford loves Brentford. I think they want Brentford to do well, and we probably shouldn't say that, as they're our London, one of our London rivals. But they've just got so much charisma. I mean, even the manager, he's so charismatic, and it's their dream to be here. So they just, long may it continue for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Obviously, we've got them away from home after the international break. That's not going to be an easy fixture at all. George, quick word on West Ham. Do you think that was a bit of a Europa League hangover from them? Do you think they're kind of still adjusting to playing that Thursday, Sunday, which they're just not used to? And perhaps if they had no football in midweek, the result could have been different.
Yeah, perhaps they'll be disappointed that they didn't get at least a point from the game, considering they're playing at home. But I don't know, West Ham, they're not exactly a team that you can rely on too much. They play good football, but again, it's similar to I wouldn't say a Newcastle scenario, but similar to an Arsenal. You don't know what West Ham's going to turn up, depending on what week it is. They can beat the very best teams and lose to the very worst. So it's, maybe a bit of a hangover, maybe a bit of adjustment, but I think West Ham are not going to finish as high as they did last season. So you'd expect more defeats.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be there thereabouts. I think I'm not sure if they'll repeat last season, but if they can be in and around the European qualification places, Europa League, maybe have a bit of a cup run somewhere, then I think that's a very good season for them and David Moyes. But yeah, that concludes the weekend roundup. Heading into the international break, Chelsea topped the table. That sounds great. The last time we topped the table after 7 games, we won the title under Antonio Conte, so that could be a good omen. Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United round out the top 4. And the bottom 3 is Norwich, Newcastle, and Burnley as we head into the international break. Guys, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and we'll catch you in the next one.